We are recording. So welcome to Drinks Professionals Network for the month of June 2024. I'm going to give everyone a few more moments here to connect. We are joined by two AI recording programs. We'll see who's who here. See some familiar faces and some new ones.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good, Fred. All right, we got a few more people joining here, so let's just give them a minute. There's Sherman. All right. And one more second. We got 16 people in.
And how many robots?
Yeah, I'm trying to, that's exactly. How many AI participants? Well, we were saying that, you don't need to show up anymore. You can just
I know, send your AI.
to record and let you know what happened later.
I'll have my AI get in touch with yours.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's kick it off. Welcome. I'm sorry I missed last month, first time in 4 years, but we're back. We're back in action. I want to kind of go around. Do we have no, Echo Spirits is not on, or are they not on? Yeah, nope, they're not. Okay. Well, let's do this. It's been a minute, so why don't we go around and let's have some of the new folks who are on here for either the first time or if you haven't been on for months, do a little intro, 60-second, who you are, what your focus is, and maybe one thing that you're seeing. And let's begin with Raj, because Raj has been here before, but not recently.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I think I don't know if it's been 6 months or something, but my name is Raj Sabharwal. I'm one of the owners of Glass Revolution Imports. We specialize in importing spirits from around the world, mostly whiskey, from India, England, Australia, France, Germany, wherever. And what we're seeing is slow creeping of shipping costs, as well as consumers still continuing to move away from higher priced items and gravitating towards mid-priced items.
Now, you're focused more on the importing,
Correct. Yep.
as opposed to the export. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Well, it seems like you're seeing what a lot of folks are seeing as well around here. Heather is new to the forum here, although we've had Abby previously has been a participant here. Heather's with Black Button and Strategic Sourcing Hub, which is like we are a brokerage aspect of bulk spirits brokerage. So Heather, give us your little say hello.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heather. So as Michael mentioned, I'm with Black Button Strategic Sourcing Hub. We are primarily a bulk spirits broker. We also have bottling capabilities, storage capabilities, co-packing, etc. I primarily deal with more kind of top of funnel marketing aspect and lead generation. I think that overall what we're seeing is, people are responding and converting on more of the specialty spirits. We're getting a lot more traction on the more unique items. We're seeing a lot more response to rum, in addition to obviously MGP bourbon and that sort of more commodity space. But we are seeing a bit of an uptick now, whereas past months have been a bit slow. So we seem to be moving in a positive direction.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, I have a rum prospect for you that is figuring out with their needs, and we're hopefully getting a sample today that I can get to them from you guys.
Awesome. Great.
Yes. Jacques, tell us, welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, your audio, is it on?
It should be.
Yep.
It's on, but it's low. Okay.
Let me turn it up then. How's that?
Better.
Better. Let me see if I can increase it.
That might be even better.
There you go. Awesome. So yeah, I've been in the beverage industry about 30 years. I started working for the Goldrings, who started RNDC. I worked directly for Jeffrey Goldring. And then I ran my own wholesaler for the state of Louisiana for 20 years and sold it 6 years ago. And then was recruited by Stoli to run all of their distilleries in North America. And I did that for 3 years. And now I manage 2 new fledgling import brands for the US. One luxury water coming from Canada and an Israeli vodka.
Hmm. Interesting.
Wow.
And so you're doing sales, you're managing the sales in the US?
Yeah, I'm doing all the distribution for North America and the Caribbean.
How's the Israeli vodka getting received these days?
It was difficult with distributors because of the war, but once it got into the market, the distributors realized how much support there was for Israel.
Mm.
What's the name of it?
Interesting.
Aviv, A-V-I-V, like the city Tel Aviv. It's
Yeah, got it.
Aviv. I got involved with the brand because of years being involved with brands, and it had to check all the boxes, price, package, and and so on and so forth. But the juice is phenomenal. The way they make the vodka is unto its own. They distill barley and wheat in one distillation, and then distill 5 different fruits: pomegranate, olives, figs, in another distillation, and then blend that together for its taste profile, and then add water from the Sea of Galilee. So
Wow.
it's truly a unique package, unique product. Everyone I hand it to or taste it says it's dangerous. I gave it to a bunch of my friends. They drank the whole bottle in one night and said, never do that to me again. So it's truly phenomenal. It's just, there's a war going on and people are skittish, but the product is fantastic.
Well, it sounds like the one thing that it really has is a much more unique story and flavor profile than any other vodka, because it's hard to distinguish most vodkas from one
Yeah.
from another. But so good on you for that.
Yeah, it's won 5 different blind tastings around the world. So it's I suggest you go to the website. It's avivvodka.com. Check out the story, check out the package. It's won the best package 3 years in a row. So it's pretty incredible.
We'll do that. All right. Well, thank you for that. That's good. Welcome. Reed from, is it Daily Bottle or Daily Bottle?
The Daily Bottle, the mountain up behind here.
Daily Bottle.
I'm Reed. I live up in Snowmass Village, which is right by Aspen, Colorado. And I've got a liquor store. I've run it for the last 23 years, and I've worked there for about 26 or 7. And yeah, this is my first meeting and just sort of interested to hear different perspectives. For those of you who have run into Lisa Cloutier from Whistling Andy up in Montana, she's the one that mentioned this group. So thanks for having me.
So thanks for joining us, and it's nice to have a perspective of
I was
someone-
just gonna say that. This is like a first.
Yeah, someone who's focused on where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah. Love it.
It's been a weird year for sure. We're in a resort area, so we're not as affected by sort of the, I don't know, maybe the working class, because it's a lot of people that can afford to come here regardless of what happens, but we're even seeing that pull back a little bit. So that's a little perspective from
That's interesting. Yeah, even the resort folks, and you've just come through high season.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
It's the price of jet fuel.
I'm sorry. So
It's
someone,
the price of jet fuel for that area.
yeah, exactly. All right, let's see. Mark is here, Sherman's here, Jess from A.M. Scott Distillery.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Jess Nielsen, A.M. Scott Distillery. We're based in Troy, Ohio. We're about 25 miles north of Dayton. We are a new distillery on the scene. We contract distill with MGP, and we also do vodka, gin, and also rum, looking into tequila as well. We are, like I said, in Troy. We're about 2.5 years into this thing. But we are on the restaurant side of things as well. I'm sitting in our cocktail lounge and live music venue. It's called the Mayflower by Scott Distillery. It's an old 1928 vaudeville theater that we've turned into a cocktail lounge and live music venue. So here we feature all of our spirits in all the cocktails on the cocktail menu. So, yeah.
So is your bottle primarily focused on your spirits at your venue, or are you
Yes.
distributing beyond?
Yeah, we distribute as well. We're in about 125 state of Ohio liquor stores right now. Also have our license in Kentucky, looking at West Virginia and Indiana for an organic growth from here on out. We also partner with Big Thirst to ship our spirits to 41 states and 71 military bases.
Wow, well, good for you.
So, yeah.
That sounds good. Welcome. Well,
Thank you. My partner was at the Chicago trade show a couple weeks ago, and he suggested I hop on. So that's why I'm here.
Great, very good.
Thank you.
Let's see. Hello, Eon. Is that how you pronounce?
It's Owen. The E is silent.
Owen.
Never
Okay,
expects that.
Should have figured that out.
So look, my name's Owen. I'm here from Tipple. So what we are is an importer, distributor, and retailer in Europe. So we export out of the US from a warehouse in New Jersey, and we bring in brands to Europe. We enable brands to sell direct to consumer across borders, across I think 11 European countries at the moment, and then to sell online across the US, across 42 states. So we just basically plug into your Shopify or to your WooCommerce. But the joys of being in Europe is that a brand can make a whole lot more money. So we cut out the importer and distributor and the retailer. So essentially a brand makes about 60 to 100% more margin. Things that we're seeing. So over here, premium is doing really well. So the people are consuming more at home. The on-trade is suffering. So I think the on-trade's down about 20% on last year. So yeah, people are buying the little luxuries. So rum and tequila are the two things that last year did really well for us. So especially markets like Denmark and the Netherlands, tequila did really well in Germany and Austria. And then there's demand for rye whiskey. I currently have a requirement from the Swedish government for about 4,000 bottles of rye whiskey and another 4,000 bottles of tequila. So if any of you do any of those things, feel free to reach out to me.
So they're looking for finished goods, not you said 4,000 bottles.
No, they want finished goods in bottles.
Yeah, yeah.
The licensing process in Sweden is very difficult to get that spirited. You have to jump through almost 1,000 hoops.
So we're the importer, so we do all of that for you. So essentially, and once it's in the EU, it's pretty much simple.
Yeah, I can remember when I was running Bayou Rum Fastoli, it literally took me almost a month to get through the paperwork to get Bayou Rum into Sweden.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now I want Michael Clancy is here, and he's behind him. He's got a little visual. So I'm going to say welcome to Michael, who's a regular, but also he's going to introduce someone here who he invited, who he introduced us to, who has been in the news this week or this month.
Yeah, so good to see you all, and I'd also like to welcome Owen on, and you introduced Owen, so I've known Owen for a number of years. He's a veteran of the Irish drinks business prior to setting up DTC, so he knows what he's talking about. I won't delay too long myself. For those who know me, for those who don't, I'm in the spirits business in Ireland. We've Ireland's smallest whiskey distillery. Currently, we're building a bigger one. We have third-party Irish whiskey, which is really good. It's called Bart's, and then we also single cask releases called the Bridge, and then we have a range of gins and vodkas. Some of them are really unique. Right. So, the things behind me are those green boxes. They're called eco totes, and Z, who's going to come on, is known as the man with the green box. So he's currently traveling around the US and promoting those and telling the story of EcoTotes and EcoSpirits. And basically what this is the future of spirits distribution, folks. This is a way of eliminating single-use glass. It's a circular economy distribution system for spirits. So we're operating this in Ireland. We're kind of launched since the start of this year. It's going very, very well for us, and it's a great way of eliminating waste, reducing your COGS, improving margin, and helping smaller companies compete with the bigger companies. So anyway, without further ado, I'll hand over to Z, and he'll tell you that in a lot more eloquent way. And so thanks very much, guys.
Well, Michael, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm humbled. I'm not sure if we are the future, but we're definitely working towards trying to make a decent change. And hopefully with a good partners like yourself and partners as a venue operators, we can prove that circularity can be brought to the market and to our industry. Well, thanks everyone who is over here. I'm actually in Canada currently, in Edmonton, which is another region where we are launching our technology. We already launched Banff and Calgary, and we are moving in an Alberta state up north. So I have a hard stop in next 20-25 minutes because I'm off to another meeting with another large group of pubs who are starting with EcoSpirits. But just a quick overview, who we are, what we do. We are packaging solution company, so we don't produce liquor, we don't distribute liquor, we don't do any of that, but we provide a solution for anyone who is involved within the value chain of liquor. If you are a supplier, we provide you a solution of a packaging for your liquor. If you are an operator of venues, like pubs, restaurants, hotels, bars, etc., we provide you a solution of a packaging which then allows you not to have a large waste removed from your premises on a daily basis. And if you are a distributor, we're providing you the often asked solution by the operators and suppliers for ESG type of packaging, meaning again low waste and low carbon. The way how we operate.
Can I just point out to everyone, we originally, Michael introduced us to the concept because you were doing a test with Pernod Ricard, and I just read this week or so that Pernod Ricard
last Thursday.
Last week, they have basically embraced it and are going to bring it throughout their global network eventually, I guess.
Yes, we have
on premise or off premise?
On premise.
On premise.
So that's interesting to me, because isn't part of, and I actually think it's a wonderful thing, and I'm all about eco-friendly and all of that stuff, but then what is the experience when the person walks into the pub, like when you don't see the bottles on the back bar and all of that?
Well, you do.
Oh.
You do, Carrie. That's the thing. I mean, because we are green box, and because it's a lot about low waste and low carbon, etc. A lot of people perceives us as just a sustainability solution. But where we came from as a company, I am in the industry for 22 years. I started as a chef, went to culinary school, etc. And we own and operate our own bars back in Singapore, where the actual company has been established. And so we are an actual operators ourselves of venues and bars, and the whole design of a EcoTote and the technology was based on making sure that it can be back of a house solution. It doesn't degrade the actual liquid, because that's why it's still in a glass cylinder, not in any other material. We designed it in a way to make sure that there is multiple different solutions how we can get the liquid out of the EcoTote based on what the requirements and legalities around beverage alcohol in every country is. So, Kerry, don't think of it that we are trying to make the world with green boxes on a back bars. That's not the case. Our own bar has 600 bottles on a back bar. We really only after the bottles which are on the actual speed rack, on the speed rail, which eliminates the biggest amount of the glass, etc. We just cross our little milestone. I mean, we have a 30 billion glass bottle problem annually. So our little milestone is a drop in the ocean, but we have crossed 1 million glass bottles eliminated from the system. We operate in 28 countries. We're within 3,000 hotels, bars, and restaurants currently. And as I said, every operator uses a very different way how they utilize the options. I give you an example. In the United States, 90% of our bar partners in hotels and restaurants, they really using EcoSpirits only for pre-batching solution, for cocktails on tap, for slushy machines, etc. But they still buy the original bottles for the speed rail, so the customer sees the bottle, the bartender pouring, etc. But instead of throwing away 36 glass bottles on Monday when they pre-batch all of their margaritas, they use the liquid from EcoTote to do that, which is emptied way faster than bottles and then returned and cleaned and sanitized. So they're not eliminating 100% of their glass waste and cardboard box, but eliminating 20%, 30%, 40% based on how heavy they do pre-batching, slushy machines, etc. We really have spent a lot of time on making sure that the operation side of it is critical. And that means that we work with our operators. If you look at our EcoTote, it's a 3.0 version. It's a third generation. It had a lot of changes done to it to be operationally easier. And so we're now really getting a lot of feedback from the operators that the operations of EcoTotes for the house pours is much easier than cardboard boxes folding, dirty hands, bottles throwing, etc. And that is something what drives us forward to really make those changes as we go to really navigate the operations. On top of it is a commercial side of it, where any green technology, as Bill Gates would call it, is a green premiums. We all learned it, and with straws, where plastic straw was 3 cents and then paper straw is 50 cents. With our technology, we actually can deliver either flat cost to the operators and the distributors and the suppliers, that your margin stays the same. There's no extra cost to you as per se in terms of COGS before you sell your product. If there is actually anything, we can deliver on commercial better outcomes. It depends on how dramatic or how aggressive your strategy is as a brand. For the operators, they pay way lesser of a money for the waste removal because they have a lesser of a waste to be removed from premises. In countries like Canada, where there is a 40 cents per bottle of recycling fee, which can be collected backwards, but it's required chasing of collecting, etc. They don't ever have to pay that fee because the circular economy doesn't require it to do so. That goes same for New York, which introduces recycling scheme next year. California already was introduced it this year, January 1st. So they're actually commercial upticks for us, although we are green, and then plus you adding on the sustainability part of it. So we're focusing on operations and commercials as equally as same as the sustainability side.
Michael Clancy has his hand raised.
Yeah, just a very quick comment on it. Z, you were saying like a lot of places are using this, they're refilling bottles, but equally it is set up so there is a pouring unit that goes on top of this, and it is calibrated. It can do a single, a double, custom fill, so it can be set to anything. It can be set for say 10 mil for events or something like that, tastings, etc. Or it can equally do 500 mil or 700 mil. So you can refill your 500 mil or 700 mil bottle from those for use on the back bar, or that could be a 750 mil bottle, I think, as well. Yeah. But basically, some operators are just using this straight as it is, green box on the bar, in a busy, say something we've some gone into places like wedding venues. And if you've ever been to an Irish wedding, there could be 300 people at it, and the bar is 6 deep when it gets late. So no one sees the bottle, no one cares what bottle are coming out of. So basically it's just press the button and serve. And it's quicker and less mess than using jiggers and everything else.
With that said, for someone like Jess at the Scott Distillery, right? You were saying that you have a live music venue, etc. We actually designed a couple of units which can be fully branded, so it actually exposes your brand beautifully. They're pouring way faster than the bartenders and more accurate because it has a flow meter in it, so it has a 1 milliliter up and down difference. We are starting to use these with festivals, stadiums, really places where everyone comes in, put a curry card down, say I need 4 gin and tonics, and I want to be back at watching a basketball game or whatever. We designed another unit for those situations. So again, we nimble, pretty small still. We develop everything in-house. Our largest team is a product development engineering team. And so we are capable of really navigating the world, what is needed. Cruise lines, when we started 9 months ago, needed, because of USPH, United States Public Health Department, we needed to completely change our packaging solution and emporic solution based on the CDC guidelines. We did that, and we are now operational in cruise lines in 9 months, delivering on saving close to 10,000 glass bottles every 2 months, just with one partner so far. In casinos world, we just developed a new converter which allows for us to actually use the EcoTote in the pump rooms, which are underneath of every casino, for the guns pouring. So we can actually now flip the EcoTotes upside down instead of flipping bottles, which gets thrown away, etc. So there is, don't think of us as this is a set in stone thing. We really work with our partners to try to navigate what your needs are. Our mission as a company is to eliminate single-use glass based on or through a conversion into a circular distribution. And we understand that it takes different things in different countries.
So you partner with producers or in all around the globe. Attila was
we
pointing out some
partner
in Florida.
Yeah, we partner with licensed operator. So Michael here would be a licensed operator. He's a proprietary owner of the license and the equipment for Ireland, and therefore he can partner with anyone and everyone who he wants to, with distributors, with suppliers, etc. And basically he and his brother, they provide a service for Ireland of the technology. But the technology is an open platform.
So my question is to Attila. What's the glass perspective on this?
Well, I'm always one to, and I'm sorry you're up in Edmonton. Hope you enjoy the Stanley Cup. I'm over here in Montreal. Listen, I'm always skeptical about stuff like this because I don't know how much of it is driven optics to the marketplace versus the reality of the situation. If you take a look back 100 years ago, people used to wash wine bottles and wash all sorts of other bottles and resend them to the marketplace because that's how a lot of these major distributors got started years and years ago. Is it a fad? Is it going to be cyclical? Again, I understand that the cost of glass, because you're using a relatively standard bottle, may go down. And knowing how dreaded poor the U.S. Recycling systems are, this is probably something that's really, really going to take off quite well in the U.S. The carbon footprint on all this versus a regular carbon footprint on a standard bottle that is dispensed from a distillery, I don't know. I'm sure you've done all of your analysis. Again, having been in the business for 40 years and having lived with people who have been through starting like this, I'm a little, I'm more curious to see how this works out because I fail to see how it's really as environmentally good as it is optically good.
The biggest difference there is, which we didn't mention, is that we operate our repackaging facility in every country where we operate, and we have a rule of 350 miles or 500-kilometer radius. So the biggest difference here is that we don't send our EcoTotes to the supplier on the other side of the world to be refilled. We ask the supplier to send us an IBCs of a bulk liquid, and that's refilled in the location. And so that is the biggest difference, I think, what you were trying to point out. And that's why our system is really delivering the numbers on the sustainability, which are frankly pretty good. And it's not us saying, we actually have a Deloitte, which I'm pretty sure that you guys are familiar as a name of a company. They have done a full audit of the technology. They actually are a consultant when it comes to a carbon emission reduction. And so we can actually calculate the real numbers of a single-use glass reduction based on our EcoTote numbers and what the reduction of the actual carbon emissions are. And it's audited by a third-party calculations rather than us. The calculator went through the Diageo Pernod Ricard Global Office's audits in terms of can it be used for them as well, etc. As I said, the biggest piece here is that our EcoTotes do not leave their territories. It's a fleet for Ireland, It's a fleet for Denmark. It's a fleet for Czech Republic. It's a fleet for United States, Florida. It's a fleet for California South only, because California is so long that we have to put another eco plant up north if we want to service north,
I
etc. So
understand.
that is the biggest piece of a difference. And that's why I don't call it keg system. I like to refer us as a milkman, because milkman would always refill the milk locally. And that's what we do. We don't send our kegs back far distances to the suppliers. We ask the suppliers to get us the liquid to every locations where we operate.
I think it's a fascinating
Interesting.
concept. Now,
Yep.
Fred, your
Yes.
piece of this is Frugal Pack.
Yeah,
which
no,
is-
that's very
which is-
interesting.
Which, by the way, I have seen now in Whole Foods.
Yes,
The
yes.
product. Yeah, well,
Well,
one of the, I
I'll-
forget what brand it was, but
Well, my name is Fred Ordway, for those who I haven't been on for a while, but I work with a company in California called Monterey Wine Company, who is going to be producing the Frugal paper bottle, which is a technology out of the United Kingdom. And we're actually the factory is basically like a big Lego set, is being shipped to California as we speak. Will be up and running this fall for producing again a very eco-friendly paper bottle that's easily recyclable. And we launched it with Whole Foods just this month, about 3 weeks ago, in 500 stores with a brand called Bonnie Doon, which a lot of people might recognize as Randall Graham's creation back, a legacy brand. But yes, it's very much the story of what I just heard about the eco tank, and we do the same thing. We bring in bulk liquid or wines and spirits as well to our facility, and distribute it through the three-tier system. The big benefit of this is that basically a 9-liter case of wine in Frugal weighs 22 pounds. So just in the transportation alone, we've got about a 37% weight advantage over the same wine in glass. But yeah, you can look up Frugal, and if you look it up, anybody will be able to find me through there. But that's really it's been interesting. The adoption is really, when we first started, the wineries are not really interested in it that much. It's the retailers and their consumers. Especially the new consumer, which is, I'm a baby boomer. I mean, all of a sudden, ratings and terroir meant a lot. But right now, the new kids, my son, doesn't care. He sees a cool bottle in paper, he could take it to the beach. And, there's no glass. So the casinos are looking at their cabanas in Las Vegas, and now there's not going to be any glass issues, which they get sued on because somebody stepped on a piece of glass and sued them for $5 million. Now you drop a bottle of Frugal wine, nothing happens.
So I know that our friends in Avalon works with you guys. With the same system. And they good friend of ours, and we big supporters of that tech. We love it when actually
I was just trying. We were trying to connect with her, but she's travels all the time. But yeah, I know the brand. Oh, that's great.
all right. Well, let's interesting, very interesting conversation. Let's now go around the horn, and I want to have anyone who has something that they want to throw into the discussion on this topic or on a new topic. I can pick. Let's see. Well, we got Robin Robinson is here. He's been AWOL for a while.
Hi, Michael.
How are you? What's new with you?
Well, I think what's kind of interesting is that there's this scare that's going on right now, especially in the whiskey industry. It was mentioned earlier today that people are seeing these things around the edges. There was an article about it. I know the person who wrote the article in VinePair or something like that, and it kind of freaked a lot of people out. And then you read Mark Brown in the morning, and you see yesterday, Jack Daniels, they took a dip in in their quarterly profit. And what it's doing is that it's kind of creating this a ripple effect of what I think is panic out there. Now, I think there's a couple things that everybody has to realize. There's just too damn much product in the marketplace. I mean, it's like right there, number one. There's just too damn much product. So, I mean, so a lot of people, you know, it's kind of like, hey, look, I got this. I'm ready to go. It's kind of like, yeah, well, you really didn't do your market research. You really didn't do a lot of things. And a lot of the failing companies that have been going on never went to market properly. And making something and packaging something is only a small part of this. The biggest expense that everybody has, and the things that will break people, it's the go-to-market costs. When I interview a client for the first time, the first thing that I do is I try to talk them out of this stupid idea. That's number one. And then if that's the free hour they get, it's like, you know, why do you want to do this? And if they persist at it, then we kind of go over like market strategy. And then the second thing I try to do is talk them out of coming here to New York. That's a second stupid idea, you know? So
It's so true.
Yeah, because everybody's telling you, I've got this thing. I want to come to New York. I said, no, get the fuck out of here. You don't want to come to New York. It's just ridiculous. But it's what we're seeing right here is a natural consumer correction to an overstocked marketplace. I mean, 5 years ago, I was calling it fatigue. I mean, I saw the fatigue at the distributor level. You know, distributors shaking their head is like, you know, if I see another 2-year-old whiskey again, I'm gonna like blow my brains out, right? Because that's all they were getting. That's all they were getting there. I think the big thing that people really need to address, and I'd like to hear some, certainly I'd like to hear some feedback on this, is now that I've got the product, what am I going to do with it? You know, how am I going to take this to market? Where am I spending my money? How am I spending money? How much can I afford to lose? Is a lot of that being taken into account, you know, as people are doing this? Because you know the competition up on the shelves and behind the bar it's insane. And that's where the vast amount of money needs to be spent. And all you have to do is go back 30 years and look to see the way Seagram's did it. Right? If you look to see the way Seagram's did it, there was a clue there. You have to kind of pull apart that old marketing strategy and marketing programs that they had before they went belly up. So I'd be really interested to see what the group here thinks about, you know, this whole kind of idea of, or should we panic, or should we just like, you know, focus on how to go to market?
You know, I think the point you made about how important the route to market and the marketing strategy is and the marketing resources. And I would say that 80% of all of the conversations that I've had with people with either they were, you know, young brands or you know, craft producers or young brands, they didn't have the resources to do pretty much any marketing because they focused everything on building up, you know, creating the product, maintaining an operation. And you know, I mean, going back 5-6 years ago, you know, when you really think about how many more producers there are, how many more brands there are, and you talked about, you know, that issue, but I think it's really come to a head in that, you know, that's why that we're seeing so many closings of established brands. I mean, well, Stephen Gould just announced his closing. You know, and what? How many times on this call did he say, "I'm trying to raise money for marketing"? Right. So I think that, you know, that's a big lesson, and I think you're absolutely spot on to talk about that. I think the other issue is, you know, there's on the wholesale bulk side, and I think Heather alluded to this. You know, there's been a total change from 2 years ago when everything was month over month of value increases of $50 to $100, a barrel, and there was no new fill to be had. And now all of a sudden, there's more new fill available than ever before, and there's less demand for it.
Wow, that's really interesting because like 2 years ago, you could not rent space on a still anywhere. They said we're
Correct.
booked to 2026.
Correct.
That's
So
interesting.
a year ago, if you went to Bardstown Bourbon Company and said, I want to buy 1,000 barrels, I need of new fill, they'd say, well, get in line, it's going to be 2026. Well, now I get weekly calls from Bardstown saying, what do you need for this year? You can get it this year because there were canceled, there've been canceled contracts. And you've got in Kentucky
closures,
especially, well, you've got openings, right? So you've got Staghorn that opened, you've got Whiskey House that's opening, you've got Western Kentucky, you've got and now and there were things that were happening a year ago, 2 years, started 2 years ago, that really created more of an issue. Like when MGP bought Luxco, well, they cut a lot of their contracts for the smaller players, so they came scrambling to us to help. I can't get, they won't fulfill my PO. And then Campari bought Wilderness Trail with big grand plans to turn Wilderness Trail into a global brand, and they cut every contract and they were not renewing any storage agreements. And then 3 months ago, they changed course because the global demand isn't there. That they said, what do you need? We're now taking contracts again. So that's been like over the past.
Honest to God, God help us from people. God help us from the people in corporate marketing. I mean, this is kind of like, I want to put a butter knife in my ear every time I hear something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it's not only in the U.S. You look at Scotland and Ireland. All these distilleries that have opened up in the last 5, 6, 7 years. Robin mentioned fatigue. Well, it's gone beyond fatigue. It's customer revolt that's trying to happen, because they'll pay $100, $150 for your first release, but then good luck trying to sell the second release for that amount of money.
There you go.
It's the same thing in the glass market during COVID. A lot of these guys said, okay, do we commission another furnace? Do we not commission another furnace? If it continues like this, we're going to need another furnace. And I'm sure the guys in the packaging have seen this. Now Europe, there's a glut of furnaces. All of the big guys are cycling their furnaces down because they don't want the price of glass to fall out from under the floor. So, it's at some point you have to say to yourself, do you make a decision based on certain circumstances, or do you try to ride the storm? How much of that is greed? Well, I'll let you answer that question. But a lot of it is like that, and it's the same thing now. What's happening to all? I have customers of mine who said, "Hey, listen, I'm sitting on 1,500 barrels. You want to help me move them?" I'm a glass guy, and they're asking me to help move barrels. So yeah, when times are good, everybody wants to jump in, hoping for continuity.
Don't send them to me. That's exactly the wrong.
Oh, come on, your garage will fit it all.
Well, there's definitely more sellers than buyers these days. Sean has a hand raised.
Well, I was just going to say two things. It sounds like they're trying to get an equity partner out of you, so be careful what you ask for. They're trying to help you move the whiskey. I just think it's really interesting in the concept of just from a distribution angle. Think about the last 60 days with RNDC laying off $91 million worth of employees, which whatever that number rounds up to, I don't know, but it's a lot of employees that don't have jobs anymore. Wow. But on the backside, you also have Breakthrough that comes into California and hires 108 new employees at over 8 million for the year. So it's kind of interesting on the distribution side, what are they seeing that affects it? And then I believe someone mentioned earlier about Jack Daniels having a decrease in the marketplace. And I'm like, well, that's a direct reflection of not having people in the streets, and RNDC being one of their major distributor partners. Yeah. So that's a cause and effect right there.
Do you think that thing in California is sort of like almost a market correction, because that was Breakthrough had never gotten into California before. That was their first entry into the state, and RNDC had kind of like a lock on it. You think that there was like a cause and effect on it?
Yeah, there
no,
is.
So I don't think there is a cause and effect, but I think it's also a direct reflection in that. Let's put RNDC to the side and just say Young's Market for a second.
Right.
Young's Market had created a necessary and sad evil in the West Coast, and that plagued. It's kind of like lipstick on a pig on a house that that it looks nice on the outside, but once you start tearing the walls down, everything's rotten.
Wait,
and
hold on,
as much as
I got lost in the metaphors there. What do you mean?
there you go. They had such a bad practice in the market, and when RNDC tried to have their cleanup, their very good national program come in, clean up, buy. I think that everyone thought that they were going to clean up Young's Market. That has not happened, and the practices that they have here are still the same. In regards to the Breakthrough beverage, I believe that they came into the market 2 years late, and it was selfish on the ownership of the family because they wanted to have a 50-year distribution model. But if they would have sold pre-COVID like they should have to Breakthrough, I think it would have corrected the whole entire market. RNDC wouldn't have went in the position that they're in, and I know now from having Breakthrough, I mean, they're laboring, and so is Southern. They're going after their major brands for alignment across the country. And I think at the end of the day, the one that has the most structure is Southern, but they don't have enough room to bring in a whole nother division. So I think Breakthrough is making a big move in creating another division and bringing something over like a Brown-Forman, which they are aligned with in a lot of their markets with Brown-Forman. So I could see that being a huge move in 2025 for Breakthrough Beverage.
Yeah, don't discount the Provy lawsuit against RNDC and Southern. The courts agreed with Provy's arguments and has allowed it to continue to discovery. And the feeling is from the legal community in the beverage industry that this is going to have a huge impact.
I think it is too. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's that's
agreed.
A small little prick right there. That's gonna actually, I think, it's gonna have big ramifications.
Hey, Michael.
Yeah.
I have to get off. It was great being on with everybody. I have a meeting with our chain director here in West Coast for Breakthrough. So thank you for the email you sent back. My name's Sean, everybody. I used to be with
you just froze.
Awesome.
I'll tell them. So he's now with a different company.
Yeah, he was with the R6 before. Now he's with go ahead, Sean.
Oak Ridge Winery.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Am I unfrozen?
Yeah, we couldn't hear you for a
Hi,
minute.
Stephanie.
You're
Okay.
back
now. So now I'm running the Western United States for a family-owned winery out of Lodi, California. It's called Oak Ridge Winery. Fourth generation of winemaking in Lodi, the oldest established winery in Lodi, and also the largest winery. And so I'll be running chain and national account positions across the country. And the one thing I asked Michael yesterday is if anyone has a distribution partner that they could introduce me to in either the state of Louisiana or the state of Alaska. We're searching for a new partner. So that was my big ask for the day, but it's always good to hear everything that's going on in the outside world. And to the Echo Spirits guys, let's get some Echo Spirits and wine.
Can you guys hear me? I'm not sure if you guys can hear me.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, to your point, we are year and a half deep in a piloting wine. We're working with Australian Wine Institute on certifying everything we need. We have a full eco plant in United States. All 3 eco plants we already have in United States are actually wine enabled with a nitrogen system throughout the whole packaging process. We have our pouring mechanism for the restaurants and bars already developed with nitrogen system within it, etc. So we will be ready for wine very soon. It's just still in our own development and in testing phase, but wine is definitely the very next, and it should be available very soon.
All right. Thank you for that. Good. Now let's go to Mark. Mark Bivenow, who's always got his fingers on the pulse of what's happening in the beer and in the beer distribution world and beyond, which is now RTDs and spirits. How are you? What's going on?
Thanks, Michael. Great to see Jess on here. Jess, I'm in Columbus. I sent you a note. I'd love to come down and see your place.
Yeah, come see us anytime. Yeah.
I will. I sent you an email offline here, so I'd love to come over and see it. It'd be a nice drive over to see Troy. And the thing I was going to say is, I think right now, what we saw coming out of Memorial Day, Bump's letter has been copied, I think, just about by every other rag out there and newsletter. It was not a great Memorial Day weekend, and particularly for the beer business. I think one of the high notes that we saw coming out of the weekend was spirits actually were the winners, and predominantly, like you said, Michael, because of the RTDs and those spirit-based beverages that are have become very popular. So beer was not, and particularly craft beer, did not do very well. Wine was pretty flat, but spirits actually were the resounding winner coming out of Memorial Holiday. It was interesting to hear someone commented about some lawmaking out in California, the Proby case. I think the big thing that we've all got to keep our eye on is this cannabis category and how that's going to fit into the way we do business. And people were talking about marketing. All these things are going to impact us. And obviously California has kind of shot down a lot of the cannabis language and are putting some halts out there. But Wisconsin seems to be, or I'm sorry, Minnesota seems to be doing really well, and they seem to be have it figured out. So I think, as a business owner, in the beverage industry, I'm going to be looking at all of those obstacles that could impact my business, all those things that could, have an effect. And then what do I do about it? Because we're always going to have this, whether it's, packaging. I really enjoyed the discussion, by the way, guys, about the packaging, and it'll be interesting to see, if that packaging, translates into, the beer business, if it moves into soft drinks, how paper and bulk and those kind of things work in those categories. But we're always going to be challenged. We're always going to have new hurdles. We're always going to have new things that we've got to work around. And I think, the survivors are the ones that are going to be thinking out ahead of that and looking for ways to, back to the point about marketing, how do I separate myself from the herd? How do I make my brand a little different? How do I make my brand stand out from the literally thousands and thousands of brands that are out there? So we're working with a lot of groups right now. It's a crazy time because everybody's kind of stymied right now Summer in the industry is usually seeing some peaks, and right now we're kind of flattened out. So I think to answer your question, Michael, I think you're going to see a lot of new products. I think you're going to see a lot of new innovation. I think you're going to see a lot of partnering. I just saw some craft beers trying to partner with not normal partners. Deschutes and Patagonia, have now partnered, and for a product and a line and some marketing to work together on different things. So you're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff, and it's really going to be interesting. And I think people are going to have to figure out ways to use marketing to separate their brands. Period. And because there's a lot of great brands out there. That's my 2 cents.
Mm. Well,
part of what Brian said
is there a specific brand in the RTD space that is continuing to emerge, or is it still split between a lot of smaller brands?
It's still pretty split. I think what we see is nobody's really, because of the flavor and what flavor is doing in that category, there's no clear, hands above winner. There appears to be just
You don't think high noon is more prevalent than any of the others?
Yeah, well, yeah.
High noon is like, I mean, my God.
Yeah.
They're taking real estate over the whole country.
Exactly. Outside of them, I should have said, yeah, outside of them. And I think we talked about High Noon previously on a couple calls ago, how well they've done. Outside of that, regionally it's flavors. And, I would say, I'll tell you what, I'll look at my charts and I'll send out to everybody some of the winners and losers in that category.
Hey, Mark,
I think I've got everybody. Yeah.
I was curious. I was looking at one of the pops that came in for High Noon when they were making their transition into tequila. And then this new, I think it was last month, they made the mention that they're going after the sweet tea category, and they're going to try to go after the RTD. What's the leader? Not Jeremiah Tea, but the sweet tea vodka.
Twisted.
Which one?
Twisted
tea.
Yeah, Twisted. That's one of the ones that I'd be wanting to track as much, and obviously I've had some good calls with you and seeing the data that you guys have. So I like to see what happens once High Noon jumps into that and what the percentages start shrinking with Twisted.
It's huge. It's huge here in Edmonton. Twisted tea, by the way. Literally every pub I walk into, I can see, 20%, 30% of the bar top drinking Twisted tea rather than anything else.
Wow.
Edmontonians are twisted, so I can say that.
I just wanted to quickly comment on that hurdles and puzzles we need to solve. And I'm not saying that this is a solution. I'm just saying it as a great example. I recognized lately when we started 6 years ago, the biggest hurdle we had was from our generation and older managers basically seeing the eco-spirits packaging as potential and good, and I like it, etc. But I will have a big hurdle with getting my bartenders behind it, right? Like they don't like change and so on. I can tell you that last 18 months or so. I mean, I'm not tracking it that closely, but it's my personal gut feeling that it will be somewhere around 18 months. It's actually the opposite. Like I walk in a pub, the manager says the same thing, and then I got into the training where in front of me I have 20, 15, 10, depends on the size of the venue, of 20-year-olds, and they all dig it. They all love it. They are all seeing it as not an extra step. They seeing it as this is what we should be doing. They don't see it as a new or so. They see it as why wouldn't we do that before type of thing. So I think
makes sense.
If you look at the old examples of what Absolute did and Bombay Sapphire in 87, etc., they all went after bartenders and went down to, making sure that the bartenders liked what the product was and that it trickled down to the consumers. I think that the young generation of people who are actually in the serving industry can help us to navigate these
Oh,
processes. Again, just
that's
an opinion.
you're 100% correct. In Arizona in 2007 to 2008, when I was working for Southern, we were doing Jameson. It was less than 60,000 cases a year. And after doing the Jameson ball and backpacks and getting it out, they put a huge marketing spend. I think it went up to 200,000 cases in 2 years. I mean, you don't make that type of jump unless you're going after the respect of the bartenders and them actually being the ones that are suggesting it for shots and pours. So I've seen that effort in marketing and what they did. I would 100% agree.
Yeah, you know, Mark, you were spot on in your comment about THC beverages in that space. In Louisiana, you know, there's only about 4.5 million people here, and I have a friend who owns a mid-tier distributor here. You know, although you have Southern and RNDC here, but they launched a couple of THC brands, and in the first 3 months, they did 150,000 cases. And their business is up. Their total business is up because of these brands about 35%. And they won't even look at other brands. No wine, no spirits, nothing, because they can't handle the volume.
Yeah. A quick question. Were those licensed distributors, or were those non-licensed, maybe like non-alcohol?
No, it's a licensed distributor. It's one of the oldest distributors here in Louisiana. They still have one of those pre-prohibition license where you could have, you know, you could be a supplier, you could be a distributor, you could be a retailer. So
wow.
Yeah,
there's only about 20 of those left in the US, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, the big fear was the alcohol and beer guys didn't want to lose their licensing. You know, if they take on a THC or CBD product that, you know, would put them in trouble, they don't want to risk losing their license. So a lot of those went to some of the independents, some of the small.
Yeah, well, they are definitely independent, and in the grocery stores they're doing complete sets for them, and they're putting up posters saying, if you consume this, you can be, you know, convicted of a DUI.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's and there again, it's just so over the board because nobody has really figured out how to control it. And until we do, I think some of the big beer distributors are probably going to stay away from it, and a lot of the alcohol guys are going to stay away from it until either that, or I've had a couple. We've recommended starting a separate company. You just start a separate independent, you know, company that's a non-licensed for non-alcohol. And sell, you know, everything from scoop to nuts, including your THC. And a couple of those have done that across the country.
Interesting.
Hey, I found myself in a grocery a couple of weeks ago, standing in front of this THC section and trying to figure it out because it's you know, it's massive, and the learning curve is massive.
and the margins are good.
And the margins are great.
Yeah.
I mean, a $20 case they're selling for $50, you know, so.
Well, let's hear from Reed. Let's get the store level perspective on some of this conversation. What are your thoughts on in terms of what are you seeing some of the same things that Mark is talking about on the larger scale in terms of beer, RTDs, and are you seeing anything? You're in Colorado, so you should be dealing with THC.
Yeah, in Colorado, we have a clientele from around the country and around the world, so it's do see kind of it changes by the week here. But as far as the like High Noon, like Carrie said, is just crushing it. I think it was Carrie. And then one of the other things it does, what the Twisted Tea does really well here, because you can throw it in your pocket and it's not carbonated, so people skiing or being active can drink on the go, whether or not you want them to. And then the spirits has gone up. The whiskeys, especially tequila, rum is just dead here. So it's kind of interesting to hear you say that may be sort of up and coming again. I always joke that sort of like Syrah needs a sideways movie. Rum needs some sort of movie to get it back on the map. But overall, it's just this winter was really lethargic, and it's almost like it just didn't quite kick in. And I've been hearing that throughout. I'm in an entrepreneur group with people across industries, and it's not just the alcohol industry, it's not just retail, it's not just beverage, like it's everything's just there's this feeling of
Malaise.
yeah, well, and just there's a underlying, I don't know if it's fear, but people can feel that something's off, and it's been that way for a while, but it's really settled in, and it's nobody's talking about it, but it's you can feel it here. It's just something's not quite kicking in. Even like when there's a super charged event here, it's sort of it happens and then it's gone. There's not like it used to linger. People used to show up early. Like it's just everything seems condensed.
Everything. Look. I mean, I'm up here in Quebec, so I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I see what all these kids are doing, and these kids are preferring to get a buzz out of THC or marijuana-based products than they are out of alcohol. So alcohol consumption here, and we're basically a controlled state, has taken an absolute nosedive to the tune of some people up to 28%. So they're really struggling, and because it's such a new concept that, hey, I can have an alcoholic drink and I can have a THC drink and I'll have the same effect. Instead of having two alcoholic drinks, I'll have one and one. So slowly but surely, the THC market is cannibalizing a lot of the liquor space. And today's generation, look, for us, it was fun having taken drugs, and we were always able to sort of hide it. We had both, but it was not as prevalent. Now that it's so prevalent, it is slowly but surely grooving into the business, and I've seen this everywhere. I have friends who are doing THC, and everything happens to be in a can. So, I mean, my question is, how do you premiumize something like THC? Another question. But yeah, there's definitely a shift in the tide, and that's why people are really reluctant. And some of the people who have been in the business for a long time are sitting there going, maybe it's time to sell. Maybe it's time to hang up my hat, because I don't want to get myself further into trouble, or I don't want to get myself into trouble after having done this for 15 or 18 years. Stephen is one of about a dozen people, who I shall remain nameless for now, who are sitting on the fence with that, who have had some very, very successful products and distilleries. The craft spirit market is definitely shifting.
Yeah, the other thing that I've noticed is we are selling a lot more non-alcoholic beer, and the spirit part of it hasn't really caught on. I don't drink as much as I used to, and I think the brand Gia, I don't know how to say it. Excellent like mocktail, but the price point's way too high, and it's just until somebody nails it with a quality organic product that is more approachable price wise, but there's room there for a lot of it. And people don't want the sugar like they used to. Like America's palate is so darn sweet, but the bottom line is they're kind of disgusted by it at this point. So
Thank you, Ozempic.
Sorry?
Ozempic.
I was just saying, thank you, Ozempic.
Oh yeah.
Listen, here in Canada, a lot of the stuff sugared, we use actual sugar. In the States, majority is corn syrup. It's a killer.
Yeah.
Molasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're going to have an ocean of bourbon and whiskey on the market in 4 years after the double expansion of Bardstown.
Look, they're not the only ones out there expanding. IJW is expanding as well. They're huge out there. I just came from down there, and the amount of rick houses out there is crazy. And truthfully, someone's buying it up, and someone's putting it aside, but I'm not quite sure it's quite the investment that people thought it was 5, 6, 7 years ago.
No, absolutely. The price of casks, both in the US and from Scotland particularly, have just like tripled or quadrupled in price. And, when you take that and you equate it to what the retail price, so you're looking at a 12, 14-year-old bottles scotch that's going to retail for $500 based on the price of casks, which is just nuts.
Well, I think you're seeing the price of casks decrease, or at least not increase at the same rate that they were. And a lot of that is just happening now because a year ago, the cost of new fill here in the US, in Kentucky or Tennessee or what have you, increased by like 20% to 25%, primarily because of the increased cost of wood, of barrels. And that has now shifted. So barrel prices have decreased. And so now the new fill prices are getting closer to where they were like in 2000 or even 2019. And I think that's having, that's also part of what's behind. It's also a factor of supply because there's more production going on. But I get lists now of 4-year-old plus, I have them, of 4-year-old plus whiskeys that were, $4,000 that are now $2,900.
What? What's the price of a new fill now?
I'm sorry, what?
What's the price of a new fill now? Because when I was buying bourbon from Bardstown for Kentucky Owl, a new fill we had under contract, I think it was $995 a barrel, and that was 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago.
That was 4 years ago. It's close to it's back to that. It depends on the volume. Right. Bardstown has offered it to me for less than that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But it's not, you can't go buy 10 barrels. You got
to buy 900.
1,000 or 2,000. Yeah, so I mean, that's changed in the past 6 months. I mean, a year ago, new fill in Kentucky, you couldn't get for under $1,200. And now you can get it for, $900.
Yeah, Michael, my comments were primarily towards Scotch casks.
Scotch, okay, yeah. No, I focus on American whiskey, but yeah.
Our sister company, just a quick comment on the regions. Our sister company is a distribution company in Asia Pacific called Proof and Company. Mm-hmm. And we see still huge demand for Scotch and bourbons casks sales, specifically in the Hong Kong and China area. Mm-hmm. There's still a big demand there, but brown spirits in general are huge in that part of the world still.
No, because there's a whole lot more people over in that part of the world than there is here. As we mentioned in one comment, and you look at it, our market is saturated, and there has to be, just like we see in every other trailer business that's associated with alcohol, there's going to be a consolidation, and then there's going to be an additional few years of growth. But this is the standard way markets work.
Yeah,
they grow quickly, they consolidate, they grow again.
There's currently 50 distilleries being built in China, and in India there's there's already 25 single malt distilleries, and there's 5 more being built, including one that's going to be the largest, not just the largest in the world, but the largest in India, certainly.
Wow.
That India has a whole another aspect to it, right, as well, because the import tax, just basically, if you produce in India, that's why Bacardi and etc. have the distillery there, because that's the only way how we can compete with a international brand in India. It's the difference between local tax and import tax is gigantic, and that goes for all of the 25 territories in India.
Yeah, isn't it like 100% or something import?
150.
150.
Oh, is that it?
plus state taxes. So there's 150 federal, and then you got state taxes.
Well, since we've been chatting, we've got a few new people who have joined us. Harrison is from Distillery 98.
Yes, I can't play it.
Harrison, are you there? You want to say hello?
Hi, Harrison. Are you with us?
I see Allie Diamond. No, okay. Don't know who.
Hi, sorry about that. I'm muted and my camera's off. But it's nice to be a part of this.
So Allie, tell us, remind me, I don't see you on our list.
I'm events with Distillery 98.
Ah, okay, you're with Distillery 98. Okay. Cool.
Yep.
My neighbor, I'm based in Panhandle, so welcome, neighbor.
Nice.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think first of all, I want to thank everyone. I think this has been a really interesting, diverse conversation this month. Carrie, we didn't get a lot of time to talk to you directly. Do you have anything you want to?
I'm good. Well, actually, since we've been on this call, well, everyone who knows about my project is gone except for maybe 2 people. But so the Still Prosecco just got listed in Publix while we were on this call.
Oh,
Congratulations.
congratulations. So there is traction.
There is, and a couple of weeks, well, it's been about a month now. We're authorized in all Total Wine in the country. So
very nice.
Somebody believes in it somewhere. It's been a tough battle, I'll tell you that. But
all right, well,
those
awesome.
are pretty big.
Yeah, that's
we'll
great.
We'll try it. We'll have to have a tasting.
Yes.
Yes. But anyway, thank you all. And for anyone who didn't get a chance to talk, hopefully you'll be joining us. When is our next, what's the date of the next one?
We're gonna, I think, I'm suggesting we go with July 12th. We normally do this on the first Friday, which would be July 5th. And for those of us in the US, some of us might be taking off post 4th of July.
Sleep.
So Michael, you make the call, but we're either the 5th or the 12th.
All right, it makes sense. That's what we should do.
I would say the 12th.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you all. So
Thanks.
I have one
See you,
question.
folks.
How do I
Wait,
get
we
a
have a
list? How do I get a list of all the contacts and emails?
It'll
So
be sent out.
I'm gonna redistribute that. You should have received it from me this morning. But I will be sending that out here in the next hour or so, along with the recording of this session.
Thank you.
And please feel free to send it to any of your friends and business colleagues. The more the merrier, obviously.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Bye.
Absolutely.
Bye, guys.
Have a great weekend,
Thank you, everyone.
everyone.
And have a
Thank
nice
you,
weekend.
everybody.
Bye.
Good
Hopefully you have
weekend.
beautiful weather like us.
Exactly.
Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.